Hello friends, this video on garbage in garbage out part 6 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So this process of composting is actually a very helpful process. So in this process, as I said, it can actually return the nutrients from plant and animal wastes back into the soil. So this process actually tells us that the plant and animal wastes which we throw as garbage, they also contain some good things. They also contain some certain things which are nutrients for the plant. So all those things are returned back to the soil. So during this process, the vegetable wastes and animal wastes, they are decomposed in pits. So pits, or you can see in containers. A lot of people who have lot of space in their garden, so they dig a pit, and then inside that pit they let this decomposition process take place. So they put all the animal and plant wastes in that pit and then allow the decomposition to happen. So here you can see that instead of the pit you have a container kind of thing. So in fact you can do it very well in container as well. Manure which is formed out of this composting process is extremely rich in organic matter and nutrients, and these are the things which enrich the quality of the soil. So now our question is that we said that this process of decomposition will not happen on its own. So the process of decomposition will happen by the microorganisms. So now the question is, how exactly are the microorganisms invited to make this composting process happen? So that's what we will look at now. So what we will do is we will try to understand the entire process of composting step by step. So let's start that how we can do composting at home. So first of all, we need a container. So even if you do not have enough space where you can dig a pit, all you can do is you can just take any simple container would do. So this container should be big enough so that it can hold all the ingredients. So if you have huge amount of plant animal wastes, in that case the container should also be big enough. So take the container and then you put all the plant and animal wastes into that container. Now the question is, why do we need a container? I mean, if I am saying that you just leave all the wastes like that and decomposition will happen, why can't we keep it scattered somewhere? Why do we need to keep everything in one container? Now, why we do that is so that the microorganisms, or the beneficial microorganisms rather, those microorganisms which will help in the process of decomposition, so that they can break down the plant matter, can heat up and work effectively. So when you keep the entire thing within one container, what happens is, so everything is quite congested. So those microorganisms will grow up within that container. So whenever you have a congested area, what happens? Heating is more. You feel more heat. So the same thing is true in this case also. So if you keep the waste scattered, so I mean the microorganisms are not in contact with each other, there is not so much of heating up. But when you keep them congested within one container, it heats up and enables the microorganisms to work effectively. So just think of this example. When you board a bus which is like kind of empty, there are very few people in the bus, and in the second scenario you board a bus which is fully loaded with people, and you don't even have space to stand properly. So in the second scenario you will feel congested, suffocated, and hot, right? Because there are too many people within the same space. So the same thing is true here also. So when you have a container and you put all the ingredients in that container, so that everything is being held tightly, so that activates these microorganisms so that they can work effectively. And what is their work? Their work is to break down the plant and animal wastes. So that is their job. So now you understand why we need a container. Fine. So we have a container, we put all the ingredients in the container and mix them properly. Now, when we say we need to mix them, because you might have some vegetable wastes, you might have some shredded newspapers, you might also have some dry leaves, some wooden chips. So all of these need to be mixed properly. It shouldn't happen that the dry leaves are at one corner of the container and the vegetable wastes are at the other corner. So that shouldn't happen. So properly everything should be mixed. Some amount of water should also be added to these ingredients. That is because moisture is needed by the microorganisms to do their job. So to survive also they need water, they need moisture. So that is why water should be added to the ingredients, so that it gives some moisture to the ingredients. Now there are certain things that needs to be avoided. So you have to avoid. So when you are putting the ingredients, when you are adding so many different types of wastes here, so there are certain wastes which should not be added, even though they are also wastes from your kitchen, but they should not be added. So you have to avoid meat, you have to avoid fish, you have to avoid dairy products like milk products like butter, curd, ghee, etc. Now, why should you avoid these kind of items? That's because these items tend to attract other animals like dogs, mice, etc. So when it invites other animals, then again the work of the microorganisms is interrupted. So we do not want to invite any other organism except these beneficial microorganisms which will help in the process of decomposition. So when you look at the ingredients, these ingredients, so this is something which you should avoid. So this needs to be avoided. And what should be there? So when you talk about this mixed ingredients, it should consist of green materials plus brown materials. So when we say green materials, what kind of materials? Like the kitchen wastes, the vegetable peels, the vegetables, fruits, etc., wastes from those materials. So they will all be part of green materials. When you talk about brown materials, it could be wood chips, it could be dry leaves, so they would be brown materials. So wood chips, dry leaves, so these are examples of brown materials, and green materials would be mostly the kitchen wastes. Now the ingredient should contain both the green wastes and the brown wastes. It should be a mix of both. So finally we know what are the things that needs to be added to the ingredient, and we mix them very properly. Fine. The next step is to take care of the compost pile. So now we actually have a pile, and how can we take care of it? So we need to ensure that we keep mixing materials and we keep blending them together. So whatever material we have, proper mixing has to happen at frequent intervals of time. Plus, we need to add material regularly so that the microorganisms get some fresh food. So if you think that, okay, I have taken a container, I have added all the ingredients, mixed them properly, and then I have left it just like that for some 20-30 days. I have not added any other material, any other waste material I mean. So that will not work, because the microorganisms which are growing there, they also need some fresh food, and for them fresh food is nothing but the kitchen wastes of ours. So it is also important that once you have created everything, once you have mixed the ingredients in the container, after that at every interval, maybe 1 or 2 days, you should keep adding some more wastes to that container, so that the microorganisms can grow properly, they can do their job properly. Now initially this might smell bad, so when the process of decomposition started. So what is decomposition basically? It is nothing but breaking down of these wastes into some simple harmless form by these microorganisms. So that is decomposition. So it is nothing but the process of rotting. So that's how rotting starts. So initially when this process starts, this will smell very bad. But when you look at the finished product, what do you get as a result of this entire process? It's a dark soil that smells like earth. So it's just like the soil, just that it is darker in color. So the finished product would be dark, crumbly soil. This result, this soil which you get, that is nothing but that increases the fertility of the soil. So when you mix this soil to when you mix this result with the soil quality will improve. So that is why it acts as a manure, because it improves the fertility of the soil, it improves the productivity of the plants. Now, remember one more thing, that when you start this composting process at home, start the process with sufficient amount of waste materials, because the entire breakdown process needs some good amount of mass to do its job. So if you think that you have very little bit of wastes and you want to do composting with that, so that will really not work a lot. So if you really want to do the composting at home, you need to have sufficient, you need to collect sufficient amount of plant and animal wastes and then start this process. So that was about how you can do composting at home. In fact, if you want, you can try it out at your home and you will see how you can use this compost as a manure. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.